So here's all the ingredients you need to get started. Garlic, brown sugar, oil, either vegetable, olive, cannoli, whatever you prefer. I also like to use butter, but I actually didn't have any butter, so substituting that. Also, instead of using pork sausage, you can use this chicken sausage like I do if you can't eat pork or whatever. I prefer pork sausage, but I accidentally bought this at the store, so let's use this. We also have bell peppers. You could use whatever color you want, and I have 2 jalapenos. I also have tomato paste and 1 tomato, even though I didn't use in this recipe tomato paste because my can opener is broken, but feel free to add this in at any point when you're cooking the peppers. So I made a little mix that I'll add throughout to the sausage and peppers, like mostly as it's cooking, but pretty much it's just oregano, a little bit of cayenne pepper, salt, pepper, any kind of Italian seasoning you can use, just a little bit, because the flavor is really coming from the vegetables and everything cooking together and the juices. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to cook the sausage separately, just to cook it a little bit, not fully, just because when you cook it with the sausage and peppers, or the peppers and onions, sometimes it just takes a little bit longer to cook. I also just moved to a new house, so I don't exactly have all of the proper cooking gear in this video, but in the future I will. If you have a big cast iron pot, I would cook everything all together same time. I'm only doing this because my pan that I'm using to cook, this pan, is not that big. It's also my least favorite pan that I've ever owned in my life, but that's not important. So I'm gonna cook the sausages in a little pan, just get them a little bit cooked. Then I'm gonna put the peppers, onions, garlic, habanero, tomato paste, and diced tomatoes in the bigger pan. And I'm gonna get all that started right now. Also, if you have rice, I would put on some rice. It pairs well as like a side dish for this, especially if you have a hungry man to feed, because he's gonna be hungry. Rice does not grow with this recipe as far as I know, but if I don't make it, he'll be like, baby, where's the rice? So putting on some rice, and he's probably gonna mix it all together, which is fine. Time to cut the peppers. I think the bell peppers make this recipe so delicious with the onions, garlic. I could honestly eat onions, peppers, garlic by themselves, like caramelized, like any day of the week. And I noticed that they don't have this kind of food when you go to restaurants. This is just like home-cooked Italian food, which I never really appreciated until I realized, like, wow, like this is like a home-cooked recipe, and it's so good, and you can't really buy this when you go out to eat anywhere. And there's many variations of this, and even my grandmother made this recipe very different. For instance, she saved bacon grease in a jar, so all of her oil is bacon grease straight from like when she cooks breakfast. She definitely always uses a cast iron. I need to buy one. But yeah, every recipe is different, and if you don't like jalapenos and spicy stuff, I would obviously recommend opting out of that. I just personally love spicy food, and I also add the brown sugar to cut it a little bit so it's not so overbearingly spicy. So the chicken sausage is coming along nicely. I just really just want to cook it pretty much halfway. Now I'm cutting my habaneros. I love habaneros. They're so healthy for you, I think. I don't know. They're delicious. If you don't like spicy stuff, don't even try it. And make sure you wash your hands after playing with them because you don't want to get that spice like on your eyes or anywhere else. So make sure you're always washing your hands in between, like with anything. I think I actually forgot to put the green peppers. I like to add like as much color as possible. So let's see what we got. So here's my dish. I love all the colors, so beautiful. I just know it's gonna be so good. I did put one tomato in it. Like the recipe calls for diced tomatoes and tomato paste, but like I don't know why, I just always skip that part. I guess I also have had a broken can opener for a long time, so you just do what you can. And if you want to substitute anything in this recipe, you could do whatever you want. So yeah, I mean brown sugar I don't even think is a part of this. I just love to cook with brown sugar because I love how it makes it like nice and crisp and well done looking. And make sure you're always constantly stirring it. You don't want any pieces to burn too much. I would say stir it every like 5 minutes or so. In general, the peppers and onions are probably going to take like 20, 25, maybe 30 minutes depending on the pan that you have, the oil you use. I like to add oil and butter. So here's my chicken sausage. I cut it up. That way I can ensure that all the pieces are thoroughly cooked. Give it a good stir, and all those juices are gonna just melt together really good, and that's what makes this dish so delicious. This is the only butter I had, so I just added it in there, but generally I use way more butter, and I also make way more of a portion, but I'm only cooking for 2 right now, so I didn't like overdo it. But if we're talking about grandmoms, they would usually cook for like 20 people. So it would be much more than this. But for 2 people, a little bit extra for the next day, this is good enough. You see it's coming along really nice. I like to see my sausage and chicken sausage, whatever, browning really good. It's chicken and pork. You have to make sure it's well done. It's not fake. And also don't forget to be washing your spatula in between. But this is how it should be looking. I usually take the lid off at this point just to let all those juices dry up a little bit so it can crisp really good. Making extra is always great because imagine this on a nice hoagie roll, like Italian bread. That would be great lunch for the next day. Now after you cook all this, you're gonna have some grease left over. I'm not gonna cook with it, but I like to pour it in these little jars because you're not supposed to put it down the sink. And then maybe I'll let that jar build up and then throw it away, just so we're not flushing that oil down that sink. I mean, I guess it is more economical to cook with used oil. That's not a bad idea. If this is your first time making or trying this, I would do it without the rice so you can really get a feel for this recipe, or at least put it on the side. Enjoy!